Shall we do a...
Yeah, you do it.
Tell you what, I'll do this, and then you say clap at the same time.
Clap. Hello everyone, David and Michael here, and we're here to talk about Star Trek Picard seasons 2 and 3. Now, we did season 1 already. We did a kind of in defense of Star Trek Picard because I think people were being very mean about it on YouTube at the time, and we wanted to talk about some of the things we actually liked about it. And now season 2 came out and season 3 came out, and it seems like people love season 3. So I thought, since it was the final season as well, here's a good time to kind of talk about our thoughts on the rest of it and how it all kind of worked out in the end. So I guess the first thing I want to talk about is, how good do you think, well, given that we quite liked season 1, how good do you think it was in season 2? And then how good was it in season 3? Like, if you had to give them a score out of 10 for each season, what scores would you give them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I quite liked season 1. That's a good description. It had some very good moments, and I guess maybe I give that 6. Maybe that feels like a little bit mean. Maybe between 6 and 7. 6.85. 6.53. Have you ever had anyone answer to 2 decimal places before?
Never.
Season 2 started brilliantly. That first episode of season 2 I loved, and I thought we were in for an absolutely fantastic series. It was a great setup, it was so exciting, had all the characters interacting wonderfully in it, and I think every episode after that I found more disappointing.
Right.
And I'm not a very negative person. I'm quite easy to please with television. And there were some good bits in Series 2, but overall, I didn't think that was a very good series of television, I'm afraid. Sorry if you really liked it. What score would I give it? I mean, it's going to be low. 2?
Really? Wow.
Maybe 3?
Okay.
I mean, I have seen worse things. But yeah, I thought Series 2 was quite bad. Series 3, I mean, I'd struggle not to give it full marks, to be honest.
Really?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
I mean, maybe that doesn't leave room for liking things more than it, and there are things I like more than Series 3, but it was really good.
Okay.
What would you give it?
Well, yeah, so I would mostly agree. I was thinking kind of 7 out of 10 for season 1. I mean, given that we did like it, there are a couple of things that, since we made our last video, I did realise, they missed the trick with Data. Because they had this, half-human body ready to go. What did Data always want?
Yeah.
To be human. There's a body, waiting for him right there. And they gave it to Picard and just killed Data again.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, I did feel like that gave us some closure, but it kind of actually would have made a lot more sense to give Data that body. But, overall, season 1 was quite enjoyable. So, yeah, it was 7 out of 10. Season 2, I mean, I watched it all. I kind of enjoyed it while it was happening. But it did have this big problem of, just kind of, it felt like it was going off the rails around episodes 3 or 4.
There were some subplots that seemed to be repeating their own stories within the arc of the show. Like, our heroes get captured and have to escape from the law. It happened 3 times, didn't it? Or at least 2 times over the course of that series, which I just thought, it didn't need that. It could have been at least an episode or 2 shorter without really losing anything.
And I remember you saying you particularly disliked how they spent a whole episode trying to get away from some authorities in the Mirror Universe, and then just went straight back into being captured by them at the end.
Can I say something about cliffhangers?
Please.
Yeah. I love a cliffhanger. A cliffhanger is a really important thing in writing. And a good cliffhanger at the end of an episode or a book or whatever it might be, your story you've been enjoying needs to finish, and the cliffhanger needs to set up a new story. So you're worried about what's going to happen next. What's the new part of this story? If the cliffhanger is just, they failed to escape, they got captured again, that's a rubbish cliffhanger. It's not even really a cliffhanger. It's the whole plot of that episode was worthless. It hasn't happened. It's been undone. They've got to do it again next time. That's not a good cliffhanger. Yeah. So yeah, that made me a bit cross.
And then they undid the undoing at the start of the next episode.
Yes.
Where they just had a bit of a fist fight or something, or someone shot someone with a phaser, and then they all carried on anyway.
It was almost like they felt we've got to have something at the end of this episode, a cliffhanger. So let's add this thing in, then immediately undo it in the first 5 minutes of the next episode, and then we can carry on with the story.
Yeah. Giving season 2 a score, I would probably give it more than a 2. I think I'd probably give it a 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah, it did start strong. And then by the end, the bits with like Raffi and Seven kind of saying, oh, we're definitely going to be killed by all of these Borg before we get to the ship to retake it. And then they just fought their way through all of them like a hot knife through butter. It felt very inconsistent with itself. The whole thing with the Borg Queen and with Jurati becoming the Borg Queen, because she was so lonely, so the Borg Queen and Jurati kind of fit together in a kind of symbiotic kind of relationship in some way. It didn't feel like a good story to me. So yes, something like a 4 or a 5 out of 10, okay. I think, for season 2. But I mean, I still watched it to the end.
Yeah.
I felt some kind of closure, and it was nice seeing Q again.
Yes.
But then why did they kill Q off as well?
That did seem like a strange thing.
It feels like the writers who took on season 1 and 2, they sort of felt like in order to make some impact, they had to kill off some legacy characters like Hugh or Q.
Yeah.
Did they kill off anyone else? What's his name? One of the other Borg from Star Trek Voyager who got kind of brought back to being human. And yeah, they just like brutally killed him almost off camera. It felt like a very like chaotic season, and I didn't enjoy it as much as a result. And then I don't know what changed. I mean, presumably Terry Matalas came on board, but season 3 just hit all of the right notes that I really, really wanted from a Picard season.
Yeah.
And so I'd give it a 9 out of 10. There were a couple of things that didn't quite make sense in season 3, but they're really like nitpicking. Like I'm trying very hard to find fault with it. So yeah, overall, I think we both agree that season 3 was kind of a triumph. And
yeah, I think it was the Picard we've all been waiting for.
Yes.
What we've been hoping for since series 1, and we got it.
So from here on out, there will be spoilers. So skip to this time if you want to go to the end of the video where we stop talking about spoilers.
The whole thing's spoilers. What are they going to skip to?
The very end.
The very end, yeah.
You will probably find this inspection boring for the likes of you two.
Boring?
Well, we won't be blowing things up. Taking or engaging in fire, crash landing expectedly or unexpectedly.
Those were the days.
Yeah, for me, it actually repaired a lot of 20-year-old trauma. Because I remember coming out of Star Trek Nemesis.
Ooh, yeah.
And Data had just died. And everyone was so depressed at the end of the film. And I was like, oh no, I feel depressed as well. I felt like something had been taken away from me by watching that film.
Do you think when they made Nemesis, they thought it would be the last TNG film? Do you think that was good? They were expecting more? Because it's quite a down ending. The ship gets destroyed, Data gets his memory wiped and he's reset. He's basically dead. Yeah. Is that the way they wanted to end TNG forever?
I feel like they did mean to make another Star Trek TNG film, and it just never happened. Yeah. Presumably because Nemesis didn't do that well in the box office. Yeah. So they said, okay, that's it for TNG movies for now. We'll do something else. And yeah, they were missing that. In the same way Spock died in The Wrath of Khan and came back in The Search for Spock.
What a film.
I think they meant to kill off Data in Nemesis and bring him back in the one after. Yeah. In the same way that, Spock got shot onto the Genesis planet, but also Data's memories existed in B4. And then they never got around to it. Well, until 2023.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and then we got some kind of closure with Data's storyline in the first series, but I think what we got in series 3 was more like what we've been hoping for the character. As fans of Data for many years, you want him to have a a happy ending, really, and we got that. So
Yeah.
good.
Well, I feel like they teased him coming back in season 1 with the whole you can reconstruct his memories from a single positron thing, and then they did all that just to kill him again.
Yeah.
So it did feel like, okay, it's probably some kind of closure. Like, at least they had that conversation with Picard at the end. But yeah, bringing him back properly, I think, is what everyone wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best characters. He's one of the most loved characters, I think, from TNG. So, yeah, good to have him back.
Yes, absolutely.
There is something coming.
Battle stations.
Some kind of attack.
I do want to say that I think it was kind of interesting to try something different with seasons 1 and 2. And I kind of understand why Patrick Stewart in particular might have wanted to kind of branch out, try something, not just as simple as a TNG reunion, but do something a bit different without like big Starfleet ships and something. And I think that's kind of commendable. But season 3 definitely works better with all of the characters that kind of we know and love and grew up with in our teens. And it was fantastic seeing them again.
Yes. Yeah, what a reunion.
Do you feel like they did it the right way, like bringing them back almost kind of one by one?
I do, yes. And at first I was thinking, right, who's coming next? I just wanted to get to the reunion. But looking back on it, the way it happened gradually was really nice. And some of the other characters that we got to see just bits of that weren't perhaps part of the main TNG crew, like Rolaren coming back for a couple of episodes, and Tuvok coming back as well. Yeah, it was good to see those. And a voice cameo from Chekhov.
Walter Koenig.
Yes. Playing Chekhov's son of original Chekhov was really nice as well.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And it happened very quickly, actually. It sort of, when you heard it, I was like, oh, wait, was that actually, it really sounds like, the original Chekhov. Yeah, so that was really nice. And it was a little sort of memoriam to the actor that died playing Chekhov.
Yes, from the other films. Yeah,
because they named his son after the name of the actor,
that's
which
good.
Was
nice touch. I hadn't spotted that. Nice touch.
Yeah,
nice touch. Let's see what you did there.
Yeah. No, that was really nice. I thought it was really nice seeing the characters come back one by one. I really liked it when they brought back Data. That episode where he was fighting with Lore and his brain, and it was kind of how I wanted that fight to happen. I didn't want it to be like some, fisticuffs punch up. Yeah. It was a battle of wits.
Yeah, I think that was the moment in the series when I thought, this is proper now. This is peak Trek. This is sort of captured a lot of the sort of ideas and writing style and magic of TNG. Pitting Data and Lore against each other in that way. That was the episode when I came out thinking, yeah, I wish this could go on forever now. This is great. I also really liked having Riker in from the start. Lots of Riker and Picard action. There was such a team in the TNG days, and it was good to have them through the whole of it. Yeah, I'm glad Riker, it was the one at the beginning, didn't come in halfway through.
Yeah. Jonathan Frakes was killing it, wasn't
he? Yeah.
As Riker, I thought it was just his character straight back in there, and still with a lot of energy, but like a slightly more mature Riker as well. I quite liked it when they were on the bridge of the Titan and they were arguing about how to, proceed, and Picard was like, no, we should attack, which turned out to be the wrong thing to do, but not for any reason, they could have known.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting dynamic there.
One thing I really liked in Series 1, to hark back to it, is the episode with Riker in it in the middle, where Picard goes to visit him.
On Riker World.
And he meets the child first, and she runs in and says, it's Jean-Luc Picard, and his reaction when he realises that it's Jean-Luc Picard, oh man, he says he's so excited to see his old captain. I think that's a lovely moment in the first series.
Oh, cool.
And lots of that in Series 3 as well.
Yeah, I think now that season 3 is out, it's easy to look back at seasons 1 and 2 and kind of disregard a lot of the good things that happened in those, but there were still some things worth mentioning, I think. I thought, the way they kind of, really took their time to bring back not only the characters, but also the Enterprise D as well, which I didn't see coming, actually. I feel like there was some teaser really early on where they showed like a little model of the D, and then people were like, oh, that's the fat one, you know, and kind of suggesting that people don't like it for some reason. But actually, we all love the Enterprise D. I think it's such a classic look, and far better than the Enterprise E, which they made for the films.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you think about the D coming back? Were you happy about that?
Very.
Do you think it looked good?
Yeah, it looked amazing. When they first visited the Geordie's Museum, and they ended up using the Klingon ship from Search for Spock. Is it Search for Spock that they steal the Klingon ship?
Yes.
Slingshot it around the sun and go back in time to 1980?
That's the Voyage
Home.
Star Trek 4, yeah.
Great. So I didn't see that coming, that's for sure. But I did think when they went to that museum, there must be some Enterprise in that museum somewhere. Which one it is? And, I don't know, maybe... Did we ever find out what happened to the Enterprise A? First Enterprise.
It was in the museum.
Was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
It was parked there.
I think I do remember spotting that. So, I did think there might be some Enterprise coming out of that museum. I didn't guess it would be the D, I don't think. So, that was the right one. The right one for them to have at the end.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it was always going to be difficult because the saucer section got trashed by crash landing on the planet, and the engines and nacelles got completely destroyed, so they were only going to be able to bring back, most of it. Probably, admittedly, the more important part, because the saucer has got the bridge and a lot of the crew compartments and 10 forward. So a lot of the locations we know are from the saucer section. So maybe people think of that more as part of the Enterprise D. I was trying to figure out what happened to the USS Syracuse, which is the one that they took the nacelles from. I was trying to figure out, did the saucer section of that ship get damaged or destroyed?
Not sure I'd heard of it before. Is it one we've come across?
I'd never heard of it before. Okay. No. But you can look things up on like Memory Alpha and stuff.
Yeah. And
they just kind of have a mention of the starship, but no idea what happened to it. Also, we don't know what happened to the Enterprise E. All they say is, obviously we can't use the Enterprise E now.
And Worf says that wasn't my fault.
Yeah. So they're kind of alluding to
some
crashed
story.
The ship or something, or got it blown up.
Is there some tie-in media? Maybe there's a book or something that they've referenced there? I haven't read any of the Star Trek books. I believe there are lots.
Me neither. And you can't rely on them always being canon either, because they change things up when they make a new TV series and stuff. But no, I think the Enterprise D looked amazing. The fact that they rebuilt the whole bridge from scratch is just insane. Yeah. But I'm so pleased they did it, and it looked brilliant. It looked just like I remember. You enjoyed Picard talking about the carpets, didn't you?
The carpets, yes. And it's not something I'd thought about until he mentioned it, but no other bridge of a Starfleet vessel, I think, since then has been carpeted. It's all had a very military, hard, probably metal floor, which perhaps is more realistic for something that's supposed to be a military vehicle. But the carpet actually gives that bridge a home feel. It's like home, and I think that's the kind of family vibe that TNG was going for, which perhaps subsequent Star Treks have lacked to some extent. It was great that Picard drew attention to it, and it made me think, it's got a carpet. It's their living room, their home.
No, I totally agree. For me, the Enterprise D is kind of like a very comfortable office. It's the kind of place you would like to go to work every day. And the crew quarters and stuff, they look quite lived in as well. I mean, it's all incredibly tidy. You never really see someone's like messy crew quarters on the Enterprise D, do you? But I mean, I suppose it is the military. They have some kind of standards, right? But I thought the bridge looked exactly like I remember, probably because they painstakingly remade it, with the original designers, Michael and Denise Okuda. They brought them back in and got them to, help rebuild the set. I think they lit it ever so slightly differently. I heard that it was a bit more kind of yellowy. But I mean, that's almost like a colour correction thing, more than anything else. And things like that wooden curve behind the captain's chair, like to rebuild that from scratch, it was crazy. But yeah, I loved the exterior shots of the ship as well when it was flying around. And particularly there was one shot when Troy knew where Riker and Worf and Picard were, and Jack Crusher. And she said, right, let's go there. And I'm not sure if she flew the ship or not, but maybe she input some coordinates. And then we got a shot of the Enterprise D coming down, like from above us.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, and they beamed everyone up, and yeah, it just looked fantastic there.
It did. Was that all CG? Was there any model action in there?
I didn't spot any model shots. I was wondering if they might try and mix some of the old model shots.
They must still have all the models. They wouldn't get rid of those, would they?
No.
I expect they're in collections somewhere.
I think they're just incredibly difficult to film, and they probably have to do multiple passes.
Oh, yeah.
And probably they are a bit old now. They might have required some work to get them back up to scratch.
I did watch some, I think it was in the Industrial Light and Magic documentary I watched, because I think they did the VFX for at least the first series of TNG. And yeah, it's showing them doing multiple passes, for one with the lights, to get all the lights on the inside of the ship, and one with something else, using all the motion tracking cameras technology that they invented. Very cool, but lots of effort, huge amount of effort to make those. And I think in the first series of TNG, there are actually very few external shots of the Enterprise. They ended up using the same footage quite a lot of times, because it was just so high effort and so expensive to get those made. They had more of a budget when it came to subsequent series, and they could do more stuff.
Yeah.
Cut that out if that's not relevant or interesting.
No, it's all relevant.
There's a darkness, an all-consuming darkness.
And it is getting stronger.
But yeah, no, I think Terry Matalas made a lot of the right decisions in bringing back the whole cast for the final season. It was such a triumphant way to finish, I think, and bringing back the Enterprise D. It's everything I had wanted and didn't think was possibly going to happen, and then they just gave it all to us. It's kind of like the most incredible, fan pleasing series of anything I think I've ever seen. But I also feel like now's a good time to stop. I don't really mind that there won't be a season 4, because I kind of feel like it's such a perfect end for the characters.
Yes.
And to end on a high note.
To leave them playing poker in the bar. I mean, that's how they often started or ended episodes of TNG. After the work and the battle or whatever it was done, that's how they would relax together. So yeah, great to leave them in that way.
So did you know Terry Matalas was in TNG?
Oh, I didn't.
He was like an ensign or something. He didn't have a big part, but he was around. I mean, he's about our age actually, and he's been a massive TNG fan for as long as we have. So it's kind of nice knowing he's one of us.
Yeah.
And he had this reverence for the characters, which I think showed in the way he directed them.
I wanted to talk about Wesley Crusher.
Right, I was wondering, if we were going to talk about him.
Yeah, so he had a cameo in Series 2.
Yes,
which
very
was
briefly.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a weird cameo. I didn't really think that worked. I mean, I loved seeing him show up, and then I just thought the plot that he was there to do didn't really make sense. Why? I can't even remember what's the name of the girl that he went to?
I can't remember either, but there was Daj and one other, but they were in season 1, and then the girl it was the same actress playing one of the Sung's daughters who had an incurable disease. I can't remember her name, sorry.
It felt like that scene had been written so they could have a Will Wheaton cameo, which I suspect was the case. And did they waste that? Could he have done a cameo in Series 3 that maybe could have been better? Because he was part of the TNG crew for the first 3 series.
Absolutely, and he came back for so many other episodes later.
Yeah. So, maybe they could have had the will, but maybe they felt having had him in Series 2, it was a bit much to put him in Series 3 as well. Don't know. But for choice, if he hadn't been in Series 2, I would have loved to have seen him with the rest of that crew in Series 3. He could still have been the Traveller or whatever he became. He didn't need to become Wesley Crusher again. I think his mum would have liked to have seen him.
Right. Yeah, and maybe his half-brother?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, that would have been really interesting for Wesley Crusher to meet Jack Crusher.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it might have spoiled the dynamic a little bit between Jack and Beverly and Jean-Luc. But he's part of the family.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been cool to see that. I'm sure Will Wheaton would have liked to have been involved in this. Yeah, I was a little surprised he didn't show up at all. And I think I would have liked to have seen him too. Even if it was just a brief cameo as well.
Yeah.
You know, this time around. What about the other returning characters from seasons 1 and 2? Do you feel like they picked the right ones? It was really only Raffi and Seven, right? Because the other Romulan guy, Elnor?
Elnor is great. Elnor, yes.
It's not a good sign that I can't remember his name.
No.
But Elnor didn't come back.
No.
In fact, we think he died on the USS Intrepid or the Endeavour. Oh, the ship that got blown up in front of the whole fleet. He was supposedly on that ship. So we think Elnor died. And of course they didn't bring back the captain from seasons 1 and 2.
He's stuck back in time.
Yes. Or Girati. So she didn't show up at all.
No.
Because she got turned into the Borg Queen.
Yes.
So do you think Raffi and Seven had a good part to play in the whole season?
I do, actually. I think they were the right two. They were certainly, I think, some of the more memorable characters from the first 2 seasons of Picard. And the interplay between the two of them is really good. But I also really like the Raffi-Worf dynamic. Worf was obviously a bit of a legend to Raffi, and she was really excited to be working with him. And then when he turned up as having been her handler, unbeknownst to her, for the first couple of episodes, that was a great reveal. I really enjoyed that moment. And the fact that she was so excited to be working with him, I think she said, "This is so cool," or something like that at one point.
Yes. I thought the dynamic with Worf worked really well.
Yeah.
I actually thought in season 2 the relationship between Raffi and Seven, it felt very forced.
A lot of things about season 2 felt very forced.
So in a way, I'm kind of glad they didn't try and dig too deep into that with season 3, but they did acknowledge it.
I like the setup at the start when we first met Raffi, and she was on some undercover mission, but we didn't know that at the time, and it looked like her relationship with Seven had gone south. And because the backstory she was sharing to get the information she needed made it look like she'd, really gone a bad way. And then that turned out not to be the case. That was a nice... I didn't see that coming either. That was a nice twist, I thought.
I love reading about all your wildly exciting and equally irresponsible adventures, but I have orders that come down from actual officers whose pay grade are far above all of ours. So, request denied.
What did you think about Captain Shaw?
Yeah, he was really annoying, but he was meant to be. That's the way his character is written. And I thought he was there. That was good. It was a good bit of antagonism for Seven, and the fact that he turned around and said something nice about her at the end, or had said it had been recorded before he'd died, was a good turnaround for him, I think. I thought as a character that worked.
Okay. He did eventually do the right thing.
He did.
Pretty much in every scenario.
Yeah.
I loved that he came back to save Picard and Riker on that tiny little ship. Even though it put everyone on the Titan at risk. I mean, you can kind of see, he was quite a logical character, actually. When they asked him to fly off to the Rytos system on a whim, he was like, no, we've got things to do. It kind of made sense. I found myself really warming to him as the season went on, and I was actually quite sad when he died. I think he was the only sort of main character that died in the end, isn't he? I mean, none of the original cast died.
I was worried about that.
Yeah.
For the whole of it, I thought, are they going to kill Picard at the end? It was really preying on my mind, that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a couple of lines that really set it up for this is where Picard dies. I mean, when we first heard about Jack Crusher being Picard's son, I was thinking quite hard about Kirk's son, David, who died in Wrath of Khan. And I was thinking, and they were kind of styling it to be like Wrath of Khan a lot. So I was thinking, are they going to kill off Jack Crusher and leave Picard heartbroken again?
Yeah.
Bear in mind, this was at the beginning of the season when I thought they were just killing characters left and right. So I thought it was quite likely. Or are they going to kill Picard to save Jack? And then at the end, when they're sort of saying their farewells, and it looks like Picard is walking off the bridge for the last time, I was like, oh no!
It's going to happen!
But I think it was just a little bit of manipulation there to make us think people were dying, and then make it such a relief when they actually don't.
Yes, I think you're right. That's exactly what they were doing. You cheeky writers!
But it worked, and they did it a couple of times. First with Picard, and then with Picard and Beverly on the bridge, and then with Picard and Riker. You think they're saying goodbye, and also with Worf saying today is a good day to die, which is cool because it's his catchphrase. But you think, oh yeah, is someone gonna die here? But no, I thought the very ending worked out quite nicely with Jack in sort of having been assimilated and Picard having to join him.
Yeah.
What did you think about how it worked out with the Borg Queen?
They were up against insurmountable odds, and I was puzzling, how are they going to get out of this? And I did not see, perhaps I should have done, Picard plugging himself into the Borg matrix to save his son. But what a great device.
Yeah, it was a really nice move.
Something that that's been a huge trauma for him since that episode in TNG. It's come back in the films, it's come back in the first 2 seasons of Picard. Good writing, I thought.
Yeah, I really liked it. I was like, how are they going to do this? And then, I suppose if I was going to nitpick here, it would be that you don't necessarily retain your kind of individuality or free will once you've been assimilated, right? You're kind of just part of the collective. You don't go to like a hologram room to talk to each other individually, but I'll give that a pass. It's fine.
Yeah, maybe something of Picard's previous experience with the Borg enabled him to be more resistant.
Yeah, I think there's a few ways you could explain it away. But yeah, it was a nice way of resolving that. Because he couldn't just talk him down the usual way. Yeah. So he sort of was prepared to make a sacrifice. And the bit where he said, then I'll just stay with you until the end. I was like, oh, that's good. And that is so Picard. It felt like the characters from 30 years ago were doing this show now. And I love that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So if I was going to nitpick, I would say that when Jack first came to the Borg Queen, which, by the way, was kind of silly for him to go running off directly to the Borg and get assimilated, because they wanted him all along, and then he just stole the shuttle and gave himself to them. It was like, all of that work to protect him was kind of for nothing. When he came in and the Borg Queen assimilated him with like the floating wires, why didn't she just assimilate Picard when he walked in, the same way? Yeah. And why didn't she assimilate Riker and Worf, who were there as well? But, I'm really like trying to find things to complain about now.
Jean-Luc Picard.
There was I went back and watched some Star Trek First Contact, the movie. Yes. And there are multiple times in that movie where it seems like Picard can hear the Borg. I don't know if you remember it.
I do. It's a long time since I've watched it, but
There's parts in the beginning where he says, right, fire at these coordinates on the Borg cube, and the few Starfleet vessels that are around do it, and that disables the cube. And then when they travel back into the past, he can still hear them, and he knows they are assimilating the Enterprise E, because he can hear them starting to get to work on the ship. So it's weird, because that was something I don't think they intended to become a problem that needed to be resolved in the future, or even addressed in the future. But they just throw it in as like, oh, I can hear them. And then whoever wrote these episodes in season 3 used that and actually made it, part of the canon that, part of Picard's brain got altered and now we can hear the Borg.
Smart.
And I really loved how Jack Crusher's abilities got explained.
Yeah.
Because, he was seeing these red vines, and particularly when some of the young crew transported away, and he saw all of the red vines kind of overlaid on the transporter signal. And I was like, this is weird. I don't know what this means. But actually, he was seeing the, assimilation process.
Yeah.
And all of the things with all of the vines and the petals kind of actually made sense once you realise, oh yeah, he's got this biological ability. The way he was communicating with and controlling some of the other members of Starfleet, like the younger ones, finally made sense as well. Because I was like, does he just have mind control powers? But it's like, no, it was quite a specific thing tailored just for the Borg, and it kind of made sense in that light, once you realise who he is. Yeah. So, no, I thought it finally held together. And I'm almost not used to this feeling of getting to the end of a series and thinking, wow, everything made sense with itself. Things that I couldn't explain at the beginning now finally do make sense. That's wonderful. And do you remember how Beverly was very reticent to contact Picard
Yes.
at the beginning because she knew Starfleet was in some way compromised?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, is that going to pan out? Couldn't she have just sent him a usual subspace message, whatever? But no, it kind of made sense, that there were, Starfleet was compromised. It worked, didn't it?
It did work really well. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely my favourite of the 3 Picard series is.
Yes. I felt like season 3 was almost kind of 3 movies back to back. You sort of had all of the stuff in the nebula at the beginning with the Shrike and the battle, which felt very Wrath of Khan with the battle between the Enterprise and the Reliant. And then you had the middle movie, which was kind of the rescue from Daystrom Station. And then you had the end, which was the big climax
reunion,
of the fleet.
yeah.
It was almost like we got 3 movies instead of a series.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
I'm okay with that too. Yeah.
We will have vengeance.
So, there is talk on the internet of hashtag Star Trek Legacy. And I don't know about you, but I really want to see the continuing adventures of Captain Seven and Raffi and
I mean, it was
Jackie.
set up, wasn't it, in the post-credit scene?
Totally, yeah.
It wasn't just post-credits. It was, there was a
All
pre-credit
leading up
scene.
to it, yeah.
Yeah, and I liked the way there was all that huge build-up to what Seven's catchphrase going to be as captain. Is she going to say "make it so"? And I was sitting there thinking, it's going to cut before she says it. It's going to cut before, and it did. So I enjoyed that. Well done. But yeah, that's definitely set up for the further adventures of the Enterprise G. With that crew. Will they do it? I don't know, but if they do, I'll definitely watch it for sure. And then the post-credits.
Yes.
I mean, great, because it was sad that Q had gone.
Yeah.
And I think Q's relationship with Picard is like this thing that underpins almost all of TNG. I mean, TNG started with that in the encounter at Farpoint, and it ended with that, and it's in every series, sometimes more than once. And so the fact that Q can continue with the new Picard, son of Picard, I think that could be interesting. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I totally would as well. Yeah, well, what do you think about them renaming the ship to the Enterprise G? Did you, when they said they would have renamed the ship, but we hadn't seen it yet, what were you expecting to appear?
Yeah, thought it would be the Enterprise.
You thought,
when
okay.
they said
I
that.
thought maybe it might be the USS Picard.
Oh no, yeah, that thought occurred to me as well. Yes, it's either going to be the Picard or the Stargazer, Enterprise. But we met the Stargazer in series 2, didn't we? There was another Stargazer. Was there?
Yes.
Series 1. There was another
Yeah,
Stargazer.
season 2. Yeah, started on the Stargazer. And ended.
Yeah. Just begs the question: why isn't there a USS Picard? Because he's such a legend in the universe, not just in our reality. You'd think they'd name a ship after him at some point. Maybe that's yet to come.
So does this mean the Enterprise F, which we briefly saw with the original actor who played Shelby, she came back and appeared to be in command of the Enterprise F, but then it looked like she got shot But hopefully she's not dead. Hopefully just kind of stunned or something. And maybe the ship is out of commission?
Yeah, are there two Enterprises at the same time in operation?
Well, are there ever two Enterprises in operation at the same time? I mean, I guess the Enterprise C was lost.
I love the Enterprise C. I love that episode.
What, tomorrow's Enterprise?
Yeah, what a great episode.
Yesterday's Enterprise.
Yesterday's
Enterprise, yeah. No, that is a fantastic episode. Yeah, no, it was lovely to see that ship come out of the wormhole suddenly, and then they fix it up and send it back. So that just got lost, and then they built the D, and then I suppose they knew the D was fully decommissioned before they built the E, and then we don't know what happened to the E until they made the F. So no, I don't know. Which one is the B?
Do we ever see a B? Because there's no in the original series it's just 1701. And then I think in the films it's 1701A, isn't it? But I'm not sure we ever see an Enterprise B.
Well, I think the 1701 gets destroyed when they in the Wrath of Khan, when he sort of sacrifices the ship to beam onto the planet, and then they build the A for what must be Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. I think that was the A. I think.
That sounds about right.
But yeah, I don't remember ever seeing the B. Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to see the Enterprise F ever again. And now there's the G. And we saw the Enterprise J. We saw the J in an episode of Enterprise with Captain Archer when he got sent forward in time to some part of the temporal wars.
Right.
And there was a crewmate there who was actually from the future, and he said, "We're now on the Enterprise J," and we saw a kind of silhouette of it or something, but we don't know much.
I have not remembered that. No.
Yeah. So if that was canon, I suppose it's time travel, so they can do whatever they like. Then there's really only the H and the I, and then we've arrived at the J. So maybe make the G last a while,
A little bit longer. Yeah. Let's try and keep that one intact for a bit.
Yeah.
You and I have traveled to the far reaches of space.
Talking about the future, I would love, the continuing adventures of the Enterprise G's and everything, but they are planning on making a Starfleet Academy series. Do you think that could be good?
I'm sure I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll watch it. Well, it depends where it's available to watch. I won't say anything more about that now, but if it's available to watch in a place that I can watch without paying even more money to a subscription service, I accidentally said it, then I'll definitely watch it.
Okay. And what about Strange New Worlds? Have you seen any of that?
I haven't, and I'd really like to, but as previously mentioned, it's on a subscription service that I don't pay to view, and I'm already subscribing to 2 other things. So I'd love to see all those other Star Treks. Maybe I'll buy them on some sort of physical media at some point.
Okay.
Watch them on my own and
Quaint.
actually own them.
Right.
Old school styles. I've not seen series 4 of Discovery 4. When did it cease to be on Netflix?
I don't know.
At some point, anyway.
I couldn't keep going with Discovery.
No?
I got up to the first episode of season 3, and we were straight back in there with like the crying and the super powerful emotional stakes and everything. And I was thinking, this isn't why I watch Star Trek.
3 got a lot more fun. I think series 3 did get much more fun as it went on.
Okay.
And I was quite excited before. I mean, season 1 and 2 got a bit down. I kept with it. But I think 4 could have been fun. But no, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And likewise, I've not seen Strange New Worlds. But I've heard very good things about it. People that I like, that like Star Trek, like me, like it. So maybe I should give it a go.
Yeah, no, I've heard it's actually pretty fun, and it's returned to that like episodic structure rather than trying to pull a single story thread along a whole series.
And it's interesting because watching old TNG episodes, as I do now and again, each 45 minute episode of TNG probably has 2 stories in it. They almost always have 2 stories. They can cut back and forth between the 2. And sometimes they don't interact at all. They're completely separate stories. And nowadays we're looking at things that are lasting 10 hours, which is really one story. Yes, it's got subplots, but quite a different way of writing Very interesting.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But I found it very satisfying back then as well. Like, you got your 45-minute story and it was just, almost every scene delivers some kind of impactful, progression of the story. And
it's true. Do you know what I've just thought? I think it's to do with the way, well, it's obviously to do with the way we consume television now. In 1991, if you missed a week, you could pick it up next week and it didn't really matter. Whereas now you don't miss a week because it's all streaming and it's all available whenever you want it. So you can have a story that lasts 10 hours and you know that no one's going to miss any bits of it because they can always pick up on it.
And they want you to stay subscribed to their subscription service as well. So you better keep coming back for that story progression. Yeah. I was thinking the story about Picard having a son, I loved it, by the way, because I like my characters to have some kind of continuing family. I don't just want them to grow old and just die alone. I like that Picard has a family now, basically. But they have actually done the Picard long lost son story before. Do you remember an episode from season 7? It was quite near the end, called Bloodlines, where Picard's long lost son from a tryst 20-something years ago shows up.
I do remember. Does it turn out to be fraud?
Yes.
Yes, it's not really his son, it's a trick.
Yes, it is.
I do remember that.
Tricked by a Ferengi who wanted to get revenge for Picard killing his son in battle. So he sort of altered his DNA to make him appear like his son. I did wonder if they were going to pull that trick again in season 3 and make it, Jack Crusher's not really your son. But they confirm it pretty early on, maybe to address these exact concerns, I thought that was great.
But something's different now. This is the end, my friend.
So generally, season 3, I thought, was great. I really enjoyed it. And I will go back and rewatch it.
Oh, yeah,
I think.
I will too, for sure. I'm not going to watch season 2 again.
No, I don't see any need for that.
I've watched season 1 a couple of times, but I don't think I'll watch season 2 again. But I definitely will watch season 3 again.
Yes. The parts where they bring back Data and where they show us the Enterprise D again, I had a big grin on my face, and I will really enjoy watching that again. And and just knowing that it has the ending I wanted, I think will make it a very pleasant watching experience.
Yeah. My daughter frequently criticises me when we're watching films together. When the most exciting moment in the film happens, I do this. And I think I did it 3 or 4 times whilst watching Picard Series 3. So
right,
that's a good sign.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for watching. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel if you want more nerdy sci-fi stuff. And thank you, Michael.
No problem.
For doing this video with me.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
I need you. All of you.
We're with you. Always.
Engage. Well, are you enjoying this? Of course not. Are you?
All right. Well, I think we're done, actually.
I think it's time for a bacon sandwich.
Yes, definitely.